This episode is brought to you by DistroKid.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of ShopPay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
It's Throwback Thursday.
Hey everybody, Chris DeMakes A Podcast producer Chris Fallon is here. It's Throwback Thursday again, and this week we're throwing it back to February 21st of 2022 for an episode featuring Brian Fallon of the Gaslight Anthem. Hailing from New Jersey, the Gaslight Anthem has always worn their roots on their sleeve, blending blue-collar heart with deeply personal storytelling. And in this episode, Brian takes us behind the scenes of the band's 2012 single, 45, a song that captures the ache of loss, the hope for renewal, and the power of turning the page. With its vivid imagery and unforgettable refrain, the track became the centerpiece of Handwritten, an album that solidified the band's place in rock history, debuting at number 3 on the Billboard charts. Brian's humor, introspection, and deep connection to his craft shine through, making this episode a must-listen. But before we dive in, let me remind you to check out our Patreon at chrisdemakes.com. Subscribing gives you instant access to the After Party podcast and tons of other exclusive content. Your support helps us keep this show going, and we truly appreciate it. That's chrisdemakes.com. All right, let's get to it from February 21st of 2022. This is episode 91 of Chris DeMakes A Podcast. Brian Fallon discusses the Gaslight Anthem's 45.
Hey everyone, today's guest is Brian Fallon, lead vocalist and guitarist for the New Brunswick, New Jersey punk rock band, the Gaslight Anthem. Brian and I take a deep dive into the inspiration, writing, and recording of the song 45, taken from their 4th full-length album, 2012's Handwritten. From the moment he wrote the song, he felt it was special, as did producer Brendan O'Brien. Brian feels that a lot of songwriters from New Jersey lyrically come from the same place. He went on to explain that he thinks it's because New Jersey lives in the shadow of a number of bigger cities and that they'll always be underdogs with something to prove. And as all my favorite episodes do, things got a bit random and weird. We talked about a rather obscure punk band that both Brian and I have ties with. We discussed New Jersey native Skid Row, and Brian referenced the song Material Girl by Madonna. Interestingly enough, they all somehow tied back into the episode. For all this and a whole lot more, stick around. This is a fun one.
Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes A Podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes A Podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes A Podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes A Podcast.
What's up, Brian?
How you doing, man? I'm good.
Good deal. You're in Jersey right now?
Yeah, I'm at home, Jersey Shore.
Nice. Did you ever move outside of Jersey over the years? Or you always stayed put?
Yeah, I lived in New York for a minute. Like, I think everybody does that for a second, and then not really. Like, I've spent time in like Nashville for like months, but not years. California for like a couple months, but not a long time. I spend so much time away that I feel like I got to stay here for a little while.
I hear you, and I can relate to feeling like, I calculated at one point, I think I've spent almost 2 years of my life in LA recording records over the years.
Yeah.
And so I've technically lived there.
Yeah, it's weird how you can end up living places, but not intentionally. I don't know, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, being on tour so much that you're just like, oh, I got to have something that I recognize. I need one toilet that stays put.
yeah, the little things, I know
No, it is the little things.
I know you can relate to this. I had a girlfriend years ago that just would drive her crazy. I'd get home from the road and she's like, "You never unpack your bathroom bag. You never hang up your toothbrush." It's like, well, why? I'm just going to leave again. I just grab the bag and go, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the sign. She's got to go.
Yeah, she did. She did.
Good. See ya.
And I still got the bathroom bag.
Yeah,
so hey,
see, that's the thing. The bathroom bag will hold you forever in those times of lonely nights.
it's the win-win. Well, I gotta say, I did a crash course as I do with all these episodes of your career, and looking back, what an insane trajectory the Gaslight Anthem had.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember hearing your name, and the next thing you knew, it wasn't like this slow build. It might have felt like a slow build on your end, but it was just like you guys were everywhere. And, there's something fascinating to me, and I felt this a little bit, Less Than Jake's former drummer, Vinny, is from New Jersey. And he wrote all our lyrics back in the day. And it's the one standout of our band was the lyrics. They felt this connection to them. They were very, I'll use the term blue collar, very relatable lyrics. And there's something in the soil in Jersey that breeds that. It's like, you look to Springsteen, you look to the punk bands, Gaslight, your writing style, the Bouncing Souls. What is it about that working man's ethic that just comes out, that touches so many people?
Well, I mean, I think that may possibly be that sort of underdog mentality where you're always in the shadow of somewhere cooler. Like, there's always New York, or there's even Philadelphia or Washington, D.C. You're surrounded on all sides by things cooler. And even on the other side, by Europe over the Atlantic Ocean. So like they're in all directions are things better than yourself. So, you really can sympathize with the idea of being, like, I guess what punk rock is about, like, and being, feeling left out, essentially. And I feel like that sort of is bred here. And it's also not a real optimistic place. Like, there's not, there's a lot of factories and, buildings and things like that. There's not like, there are scenery. There's like woods and, beaches, but they're crowded, not the woods, but the beaches are incredibly crowded. There's no isolation here. So I think you feel this pressure of always being squeezed, it's like a weird thing.
And I've never heard it put like that. That's interesting. I just, there's something about the lyrics from the bands over the years from Jersey that, to me, I'll use the word, they're believable.
Yeah.
They feel real. They don't feel like, oh, this is just somebody that put pen to paper to get a lyric out. They're believable.
There's definitely horrible bands from New Jersey. So
oh yeah.
There's bad ones. There's but I
could name 10 right now, but I'll save you.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Probably the same. At least 5 of them are probably the same. But I think that there is like this sense. There's also like Grandfather Bruce or like Uncle Bruce or whatever you want to call him. But he's sort of set the bar pretty high. Like, I imagine, I don't know what's Bob Dylan from Minnesota or something like that. Like somewhere, so I probably wherever he's from, that's like, there's like this long shadow of like what you're supposed to do. And I guess, since Bruce was the first one to really like make it, there was like a sense of seriousness. Even if you look at the bands, like, I was listening to the first Skid Row record the other day, and it's a good record, but there's a sense of seriousness. Like all the other 80s bands were writing about like, like smoking in the boys' room or like whatever, like girls. But like Skid Row was like 18 in life. Like, I just killed a guy and now I'm going to jail. Like that's like the mindset. They're all Jersey guys, it's weird.
It's funny you brought them up because I was going to bring up Skid Row to you. Their first singer before Sebastian, his name was Matt Fallon, and I wanted to see if there was any relation being a Jersey guy.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I've never met him, but like, I think.
Okay, did you know that though?
I did, yeah, I did. And
okay.
I looked myself, I was like, oh, I wonder if this guy's like my cousin Matt. I'd be like, that'd be cool.
That's what I thought you may say. Yeah, it's my uncle. You know,
wish. I mean, I don't know. Tell Snake Sabo.
Yeah.
Tell him to call me.
Yes.
Up. Yeah. Hey, Dave.
I will. Which is funny. A quick aside. I hung out with Dave Sabo a couple nights. We Less Than Jake, for whatever reason, opened up Bon Jovi's Crush tour for 2 weeks on the East Coast back in 2000. And Dave came out to the Continental Airlines Arena in Jersey when I'm like, I can't believe that Dave from Skid Row's on my bus right now drinking beers
cool,
with
man.
us.
Dude, those guys are cool. Like, I mean, even like I met John a few times, and like they're so cool. Like, and Dave was the lyricist, right? Skid Row.
Dave and Rachel did the lyrics.
Oh yeah, that's right. Rachel, the bass player.
Yeah.
Bolin, right? Rachel Bolin.
Yeah, Rachel Bolin. Yeah.
They so yeah, like I mean, they were the ones like from here, because Sebastian, I guess, was Canadian. So, but you can hear all the, you know, the Jersey thing from them too, and like, you know, even I guess like John Bon Jovi's first couple records, they were darker, you know, like than like later, but like there was always that thing. I don't know, maybe there's so many people from here, like Bruce Willis is from here, Die Hard, you know, Jack Nicholson. Like it's like this weird thing.
It's cool you brought up Skid Row, because a lot of you're right. Most of those bands were singing about girls and partying and whatever else, and they were singing about some more real, again, relatable, everyday human things. Yeah,
I mean, even like the ballads, like the I Remember You and all that. It's like that's something that every kid did. I remember like being like 8 years old when that came out and hearing it and being like, oh yeah, like love letters in the sand, like drawing like, you know, like BF plus like, you know, Jennifer Lopez or whoever it was, you know, at the time that I would write in the sand. And like, but every kid did that. It was like I don't know, like that seems like more it was much more relatable to me than like Don't Need Nothing But a Good Time. Like time sucked when I was a kid. I don't know about it. You know, like there was no good time.
Well, you know, and again, talking about that trajectory, you know, you guys were formed in 2006. The debut record Sink or Swim came out 2007. And then you signed with Side One Dummy, and the 59 Sound came out in 2008. And I mean, just like I said, that year between 07 and 08, you guys just exploded.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was everywhere. And your next record, 2010's American Slang, came out, and 59 Sound and American Slang were both produced by Ted Hutt, who's known for working with Dropkick Murphys, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, Old Crow Medicine Show, among others. I know he's done stuff with Bouncing Souls. And then you got signed to Mercury, and in July 2012, Handwritten was released. And was there talk of working with Ted again? I know you brought in Brendan O'Brien, and why'd you work with Brendan? Was there other producers that the label maybe had brought in, and why'd you end up going with Brendan?
I think with Ted, like we had done 2 records with Ted, the 59 Sound and American Slang, and then I did like a side project, The Horrible Crows, with Ted Hutt. So it was like 3rd record with Ted Hutt. And then like when we went to do Handwritten, we sort of were like, you know, maybe we should do something else, like to see what happens. Like if we did it, not because like we didn't like Ted, obviously Ted worked well and I've worked with him since. And I don't know, I thought it was like a good idea to just try and see who we could get. And then we all, you know, we grew up on the 90s, like Pearl Jam records and stuff like that. So we were like, yeah, like who's the coolest like record producer, Red Hot Chili Peppers, like Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Like Brendan was there. That was the guy who was like, Rick Rubin obviously produced it, but Brendan was the one who's there every day recording it, like, whatever. Yeah. So like I figured, you know, let's talk to Brendan. And he was just like, he worked with Bruce and he was cool. Like Brendan's just a rock guy, super, super cool. And really like not friendly in the sense of like, you know, like he's not going to pull any punches. He was just like us. So he was just like, you know, not like, oh yeah, like this is great, everything's great. Like he was just like, this sucks, rewrite this, like this isn't good. And you just be like, all right, cool.
That's crazy. Yeah. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about him because I've had, you know, been doing the pod now for about a year and a half, had a bunch of guests on, and maybe someone has worked with Brendan, but none of the songs that I featured on the show were produced by Brendan. So, I mean, you look at the, you look at his discography, The Killers, AC/DC, Bruce Springsteen, Chris Cornell, Pearl Jam, Train, The Offspring, The Frame, My Chemical Romance, Rage Against the Machine, Neil Young, Stone Temple Pilots, you know, and now all of a sudden you're in a room with that. Had to have been a trip, right?
That was wild. It was totally wild. Like, but I was in for it. I was ready to like get into it with him. He was the coolest because he'd done. I spent most of my time with him asking him questions about other bands, like who's the best singer, you know, or like all this stuff. And he was really open about it all. He was cool.
That was one of my favorite things of working with some of the big name producers that we have, was picking their brains and warming up enough to where you could pick their brains. Like, okay, we're out to dinner now. So what's Chris Cornell like? You know? And, and then they start talking, you're hearing these stories and you're like, I can't believe, you know, some of the stuff Rob Cavallo told me. I was like, I can't believe that I'm hearing this. Green Day stories and stuff that were just phenomenal. Some stuff that I won't even repeat because he was telling me in confidence.
Sure.
And I've always held that near and dear. But the album Handwritten was your first, again, on Mercury Records. You were signed to Mercury, number 3 on the U.S. Billboard 200 chart. You know, so that's insane.
I forgot about that. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
That's such an accomplishment. Congratulations.
It was wild when that came out. I mean, like, it was. I remember it being like, all right, well, okay, you know, like, this is pretty big now. And then, it was big. And I don't know, I don't think we really thought about it too much. We wanted to be a big band. Like, we didn't not want to be a big band, but we, you know, when it happened, I think we were all a little bit surprised. Like, did we pull it off like this? You know, because I don't think we ever shot to be like, we never wanted to say, like, be like My Chemical Romance, where you're like, I don't know, like, that's huge. Like, that's like pop big, you know, it's like Bon Jovi big.
Sure.
But we thought if we could be like the biggest punk band, that'd be sick. And then, you know, we got to the level where we were like, all right, man, like, you know, the bands we grew up listening to, we had either surpassed or we were on the level with like pretty big bands. Like, and I was like, especially live, like maybe not record sales or whatever, but live, we were like we were selling out the big places, and it was cool. Like, we just were like, all right, cool. Like, who's the young band that we could take out with us now? So it just became like a further extension of what we were doing previously, but just cooler.
Well, you want to talk about all the pieces of the puzzle lining up plus hard work. I mean, you made 3 great records in a row. Everything was just kind of coming to this crescendo here. And then the record comes out, explodes to number 3. The song we're going to talk about today, 45. You know, when I was researching your catalog, I was certain there was going to be something on the 59 sound that we'd be talking about today, you know, and I'm like, we got to go for 45. I mean, the song just was massive for you guys. It was. I watched the performance. You got to play Late Night with Letterman. I watched a performance at Reading and Leeds Festival, a couple different ones. And you can attest to this. When you put a record out, it takes a minute for people to warm up. But I was watching videos of you guys from 2012, 2013 of 45, and just every fist is in the air, people screaming, singing along. Yeah,
it was wild. Like, when we did the video, I remember we did it at the Stone Pony, and we had like an open, you know, like email. We just said, like, if you want to come to the video, there's this many spaces, like, first come, first serve, show up. And I remember saying on the morning of the video, I was like, I hope people show up. And then, like, I was nervous still, because, like, you don't really know. And then there was like so many people.
I bet the whole boardwalk showed up.
Dude, like, that place was jammed. And it was like, you know, and then we had to turn people away. We just had to be like, you can't take any more people in here. And then we ended up, like, we were doing the video, but then we ended up doing a show for free just because it was like, well, we're here, we're set up, let's just do it. And then we did it. And it was awesome. Like, that was a good day.
What do you remember about writing 45? Where was it in the process?
Well, so that was fun because when I was writing it, I came back from tour, and then I was like, okay, time to write a record. Like, I know we have, you know, we better get this done. And I remember having like a real hell of a time coming up with something, like I always do. Every time I start to write a record, I forget how to write songs entirely. And it's a nightmare. I hate it.
Do you get in your head?
Big time. Yeah. Like, you're a fake. You can't do this. Like, you're never gonna do this again. Like, this is it's a bad idea. Like, go back to construction now. And so, like, I was. But I remember sitting there, and I remember going, like, I said, no, you know, I could do this. And I remember playing the chorus and just going to, like, myself, like. And then, like, not like da 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 da. And then I turned the record over, like, in my head, just like I was looking at a record or something like that. And I thought, like, oh, and you know, yeah, like, it's your life, you know, and this is the next chapter. We're on a major label now. I'll flip it over, like, see what happens. And then it all just, like, came out at the typewriter, and I was not the typewriter, but the laptop. And then I showed it to everybody, and everybody was like, meh, it's all right.
Really?
It's all right. I was like, this song rules. And everyone was like, it's all right. Like even friends, I'm talking everybody, friends, everybody, it's fine. It's okay. And then like, I remember showing it to my one friend, Andy Diamond, and he's like the mayor of New Jersey. And he's like, kid, this is the best song you ever did. And I was like, you know what? You're right. It is the best song. And then I sent it to Brendan and he was like, yo, he said to me, this is a hit song. And I was like, okay.
I'm glad you said that. That was my next question. What did Brendan think of it?
Yeah, immediately. He said to me, he goes, this is a hit song. He said, only thing, he said, that little riff that you're doing in the bridge, that's got to happen all over. And it was the down, 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 down. And I wrote that as a little bridge part, thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, this sounds like Texas is the reason. Cool. I'll put this in the bridge, like as a little break to like the rest of the punkness of the song. And I was like, it'll give it a little breakdown. Whatever. So I never thought anything of it. And he's like, that's the riff. And I was like, okay. And then that was it. We did it.
That's wild. So I guess you've already answered my question. I usually ask, like, where was this song to you in terms of like, where did it rank with the rest of the stuff in the record? You thought it was up there. You thought it was great. Brennan thought it was great.
Yeah.
And where in the process of writing the record did this song come? Was it early on or was it late in the game?
I would say first or second song. It was probably the second. No, I'm sorry. I can tell you it was number 3. It was the third song. The first song.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The first song was a song called Biloxi Parish. Second one was a song called May. And then 45 was the third one.
No kidding.
And I was like, I got this. I was like, I got this one.
That's cool. Yeah. Usually for me, it's always the later songs of the record that seem to, you kind of get in a groove or something. The first ones kind of go on the back burner. That's just my experience.
Yeah. I don't know. I've always had it like where it, like the initial burst of inspiration when I sit down to write, it's like so freeing when you finally get past all like the head case stuff that like I get the best ideas right away and then kind of struggle for a while again in the middle. I usually get like 4 or 5 songs and then struggle for 6 months and then I come up with like 20 songs. Well,
this song, there's one word to it. It's immediate for me. I remember hearing it the first time. I'm like, what's there not to like about this song? It's just honest. It's straightforward. It's catchy as hell. The song's 3 minutes and 23 seconds. The song begins with drums and that clean arpeggiated guitar riff that you're speaking of. Right off the top for 4 bars, and the bass and the guitar are playing this simple yet melodic lick that goes on for 4 bars. And there's a snare roll. And now we're into the verse progression without vocals yet. And you let out this ow kind of vocal thing, but it's kind of buried. It's not like it doesn't hit you over, between the eyes. It's there, but it's subtle. That happens, and then another guitar part playing a quicker lick, almost sounds like downstrokes, happens for 8 bars, and then we're into verse 1. I'm going to read all of these, but I'll explain. I think you got a pre-chorus in here. I don't think this is just a verse into the chorus, and I'll tell you why I think that, but I'm going to read the whole thing. Have you seen my hands? Just look at them shake, and the song just keeps on repeating. Drop the needle again, and I dance with your ghost. Oh, but that ain't the way. I can't move on, and I can't stay the same. And all my friends say. What's happening here?
I think, it's like when you're feeling like trapped in those situations where you can't get over something, be it a relationship or and it felt like I kind of thought that as a writer, like this song, I was truly talking to myself in twofold. One, I was referencing when I was a kid and my first like serious like high school breakup, like that was like formative years. And encouraging myself of that. And second, I was encouraging myself as I was doubting in my own ability to write. and be what I was, because I was officially a musician by trade now. And I was not, maybe in my head, I was not before, whether I was in reality or not. And so, what you're hearing here is that's me working that out and saying, I feel like a lot of my songs are always talking to the listener, and that this song for certain is talking to myself and the listener.
Okay. And the song title 45 does not appear anywhere in the lyrics. Can you shed some light? Or you care to share what 45 is about?
Yeah, well, 45 is the single, like a vinyl single. So, turn the record over. Like, it's like there's all these references that drop the needle again. Like, it's like very simple, like the wax and the needle.
Sometimes I'm a little too highbrow for my own jeans here, Brian. I need to be more Captain Obvious.
You know what?
I get it now.
It's me, me and Jeff Tweedy. We say, don't be afraid of low-hanging fruit.
I should have.
Good.
I should have grabbed the rotten apple, because 45 obviously it makes complete sense to me now.
Yeah.
I'm arguing that there's a pre-chorus here.
I think there is.
Yeah, I can't move on and I can't stay the same because the progression changes there.
Yeah.
And man, that chord, and when it goes there, it is so it's so lifting.
I can't move on and I can't stay the same. And all my friends say,
I can't move on, I can't stay the same, and all my friends say. And then we're into chorus 1. It's only 45 seconds in the song. You're already in the chorus. Do you recall up to this point Brendan changing anything or arrangement wise, or was this pretty much the same? And did you demo the song prior to going in?
He did not change anything with this one, which was awesome for me. I felt really good about that. But I did. I demoed it. I demoed it acoustic, so it was just me playing it to probably a click track. So it was just me and like that, and then singing it, but I would sing it like at regular volume and not like acoustic ish.
But yeah, chorus 1 comes quick, 45 seconds. We're already here. And I'm going to read these lyrics and I'll have you talk about these. Hey, hey, turn the record over. Hey, hey, and I'll see you on the flip side. There you go. Turn the key and engine over. Let her go. Let somebody else lay at her feet.
That's just like that's the same like kind of encouragement, but like universal encouragement. Like I remember like singing the song to myself and then getting to the chorus part and kind of going like singing the melody. Like I often say words that are in front of me. Like I had a song that I just I was looking at one of the Pearl Jam records, and they said the word rear view mirror in the melody, and then it actually became something else. Later, so I'm a big fan of like saying whatever's on your mind, like just I guess that's like the Beatles kind of thing, like where they're like what was it, scrambled eggs was like yesterday,
right? Yeah.
Like that, you know what I mean, like it was just like scrambled eggs, like I love your legs. So I think that's like a healthy thing to do, and this one was just like hey, and then I'd be like, I don't know. Turn the record over. Like what would you say? Like, how do you get on with your life? Like, I thought it was like such a good thing. Oh, you know what? It was because I wanted to get the phrase. I had the phrase, I'll see you on the flip side. It was in my head and I couldn't get rid of it. So I went, hey, like something, and then I said, oh, we probably should say that again. Like, because I knew I was like, what would I want to do at a show? I'd want to, you want to sing first time you hear the song. So what do? Well, you don't say words, you say, hey, hey, or whoa, or something like that. And I felt like, I had, and then I said, see you on the flip side. And I was like, the flip side of what? And I was like, I don't know, a record. Like, turn the record over. Like, that's a real thing I would have said to somebody. Like, enough, turn the record over. We would have said that to our friends. Stop, turn it over. That's what you'd say to your friends when you're annoyed.
Hey, everybody, don't you dare go anywhere. There's lots more Chris DeMakes A Podcast after these messages from our sponsors.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service. that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits, to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place. For changes big and small. Loud or quiet. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Have you ever spotted McDonald's hot, crispy fries right as they're being scooped into the carton? And time just stands still. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus and present in Virginia. First online, real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is the story of Whitney Houston.
This is the story of Kurt Cobain.
Of George Michael, of Otis Redding, of Amy Winehouse, of Michael Hutchence, Bob Marley. This is the story of Prince.
It's a new podcast series
about how they died, why they died, and why we're still talking about them so long after.
It's like nothing you've ever heard before.
It's storytelling.
But it's more than that, because rock stars,
they tell us how we feel. They change our mood.
They change the clothes we wear, the people we hang out with,
the way we remember things.
It's them who give us those ludicrous moments, the ones where you're
jumping around, singing your heart out, feeling understood.
And it's those moments we'll help you remember, the ones you're thinking about right now.
That feeling.
That feeling.
It's coming soon from Crowd Network.
Just search for Death of a Rock Star on your podcast app.
And subscribe now.
Hey, what's up? My name's Lurk, and I'm the host of Lambgoat's Van Flip podcast. Every week, I have in-depth conversations with bands from all over the scene, big and small. We also like to keep our finger on the pulse and showcase up-and-coming bands on the show as well. So come check out Lambgoat's Van Flip podcast.
Hey, everybody. If you like Chris DeMakes A Podcast, I'm going to assume that you like music podcasts. And if you like music podcasts, check out One Hit Thunder. Each week, we dive into a one-hit wonder, and along the way, we gain some knowledge and have some laughs. Lou Bega, Crazy Town, Harvey Danger, The New Radicals, Aha. We're over 100 episodes in now, and to paraphrase the great Matthew Wilder, nothing's going to break our stride. Subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods. And now, back to the show.
There's something else in this chorus that I noticed, and I remember having a conversation with a producer years ago, and I knew he was full of crap as a young person. There's no rules in songwriting, Brian, as you know, and you get the line over in the first line, and you get the line over on the third line. I remember having that lyrical argument with the producer. You can't use the same word in the chorus. Like, yes, you can, and this is further proof. There's plenty of songs that do it. On the instrumentation here in the chorus, instrumental side, it sounds like another pair of stereo guitars comes in here. That guitar lick is pan left. It's playing its own counter melody. And all the licks, all those little counter melody licks, they're very subtle. It's more like ear candy throughout this song. It's not like they're big, loud, AC/DC guitar lick parts coming in,
right.
But they work perfectly that way. The progression of the chorus differs from the verse, but that guitar lick gives it continuity, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's subtle. The first half of the chorus, it starts on the minor, and then the second half, it uses the exact same chords, but just flips to the major for the one.
Yes.
And so they switch positions, but it's just, the only reason I did that is just to get, this whole idea musically for this song was to make the song move and constantly be interesting, constantly changing, constantly interesting, no boring. No, that was the rule with this record, especially with Brendan, no fat. Like he used to say, no timekeeping. No playing that's just timekeeping. None of that. He's like, it has to have a purpose or it's out of here. I'm like, okay.
You can see me smiling real big because I have that written down here. There, this part that comes in, the drums on the second half of the chorus, the drums go to the ride cymbal. Okay. The chord progression, as you said, flips there, and the guitar lick changes. And I wrote down that this is like two choruses in one that you get. Yeah, and that's great because to your point, it just keeps it fresh. There's no fat. You don't get sick of the chorus. It's like two in one.
Yeah, I think I'm a big fan of like you gotta morph the thing all the time. You have to keep it moving and try to find new ways to, like, even if you have, like, say you have one melody, right? The second half of it, you only have the notes or you have the tempo of the words. So one of those things has got to speed up or slow down. I'm always a big fan of, if it starts minor, you finish it major. If it starts like slow, speed up, because like even the words of the chorus, I thought about like having like the long, like, hey, two times. And then I was like, okay, the next half of the chorus has got to be like, faster paced. And you got to keep people interested. Because my whole view was always thinking about the live show. And like when you hear a band that you don't know, unless they're interesting, like your band is extremely interesting live, first of all, there's a lot of people to watch, but you don't like, it sucks when you like see a band like trying as hard as they can, but you're just like, how many times can you watch four people play guitar and bass and drums? I mean, unless the songs are mind blowing, but often they're not. So you got to find a way to keep it interesting. And that's where this all came from. Like when I was thinking about it.
I'll tell you something else I love. You get the first harmonies in the song on the back half. There you go. Turn the key in the engine over. Let her go. Let somebody else later feed. The harmonies come in there. Was there ever talk of having the harmonies come at the top, or did Brendan want to save that, or do you want to save that?
I don't know. That would have been a Brendan thing because that's Brendan doing them. So he was really big on the harmony thing, and I was kind of like, harmony, like harmony schmarmony, just unison or nothing, like
unison or die. Come on, I'm from Jersey.
Unison or
we sing as one.
Yeah, right. It's us against you, pal. Which side are you on?
So Brendan did those. Brendan did those vocals because I know Brendan was credited as extra guitar on the record. He was credited as playing some keys, and he's a multi-instrumentalist, as I know.
Yeah, well, I'll probably get sued or something for telling you this, but he probably did not take credit. I can't say for sure, but he probably didn't take credit for singing because you get paid more for singing. And dude, Brendan was so cool. Like Brendan never helped me. I'm like a real staunch, like no co-writing, like for, especially with Gaslight. I've broken my rule like 3 times ever. But he said to me, like in the beginning, he was like, he's like, if I ever make a suggestion to you, he's like, don't worry about being defensive about like co-writing. He's like, I've got enough. I've made enough of a living. I don't need your money. And he's like, I'm not going to take any of your money. So he's like, if I ever come up with an idea and you like it, he's like, I'm giving it to you. And I mean, it never actually ended up happening, but the fact that he said that I thought was so awesome and like so unique. Like That does not happen. Everybody's like, oh, I said the word the, man. You're like, I got 30%. You know what I mean? A word for a third. And you're just like, you're pirates. You're all pirates.
It lets you as the artist keep your guard down. It's refreshing.
Yeah, big time. Like 100%. It lets you as an artist get your guard down. And that's how you get the best stuff.
Absolutely. Well, there's a 4-bar reintro after the chorus. It's just guitar and drums. And then it's 4 bars with the bass and verse lick progression before verse 2 starts. But have you seen my heart? Have you seen how it bleeds? And the nights are so long, baby. Out here in the deep, the ticking of hours, lonely. I hear the alarm. And I'll read the pre-chorus too. I used to hear when she would sleep in my arms, but better sense says.
So all that is like a continuation of like the more relational kind of self-comforting pep talk. But there's a little bit of candy in there. Like, so what that is like, so when there was 2 like bad breakups I had, one was when I was in high school. And then the second, I filled in for a New Jersey band for like 6 months. It was my first like tour. There's this band called Lanemeyer, and they lost their singer. So their bass player stepped up to be their singer, and they said they needed a guitar player who could also kind of sing once in a while, like sort of be like the other guy in the Goo Goo Dolls. And I was like, I'm not really into it, but I do want to be in a band, and this band's not lame. So I was like, that's cool. Let's do it. And I really liked their other guitar player. He was an awesome guy. So we bonded. And then
so you know Sean Smith.
Yeah, I do know Sean. And so Sean,
I hung out with Sean in Tampa in Florida, and one night I knew him for months. We hung out together, and he'd go to the same bar I did. And one night he's like, "Yeah, I don't know if you remember my band. We played with you guys a couple times. We're called Lanemeyer." I'm like, "Of course I know who you are." So you played in Lanemeyer?
Yeah, for about 6 months. I maybe
that's
5
crazy.
Months. Yeah. So
what?
I did one tour of the U.S. with them with the Lawrence Arms, and it was cool. I learned everything I know about touring. It was like 8-9 weeks in my first tour ever. It was a nightmare. But it was awesome. And so anyway, so the point of that is I wrote one song for that band that I sang, and it was called Alarm. Just so I know before places. And if you see me walk away and something inside you breaks, maybe that's the first time you and I thought we never felt the same. And they hated it, but it was actually a great song that ended up like doing well. So so
hey, new guy, you got to go now.
So they didn't like that I wrote a good song, which but it wasn't like, dude, it's not a competition. It's just like, hey, that's just one more good song we have now. Like, it doesn't matter who sings it. But so I wrote, I Hear the Alarm. And that was like a little joke to myself that no one would ever get. And I've never told anybody that before. So that's what I Hear the Alarm. That's where I said the word the alarm. And then in the end, it says, but better sense says. So now when I was in high school with the other bad relationship breakup that I had, the song that truly made me feel better was the song Better Sense by Hot Water Music. And it like made me feel like I can have faith in myself and do and heal and be better. And like, I don't know, like, and so I said, but Better Sense says, hey, turn the record over. And it's like, that's what, so I was referencing these little bit. I have tons of little jokes to myself that maybe no one will ever get.
I mean, the references in this song are probably more at this point than any song I've covered on the show. Like you're pulling from so many different directions. I'm like, it's like a schizophrenic hour songwriting session, you know, but it's amazing though. Like you got so much going on in this song.
Well, I get excited about like multiple things. Like I've always been a person who I'll take any kind of music. Like I'll listen to like ska music and then listen to pop and I'll listen to anything. I don't like everything, but I will try everything. And I let everything influence me. Like for instance, like right now I get obsessed over things too, like not in a bad way, in like a good way, where like the thing that I'm obsessed with now is in the song Material Girl by Madonna, the way that the chorus melody goes is extremely weird, and it's not a common thing. And I'm obsessed with the, like, you know, like when it breaks down and there's like a material. Like the way that it like goes with the rest of it, there's like parts in that song melodically that hit these minor notes that are incredible. And I'm like, that's going to make it into a song somehow. And I just pull from everywhere, but I feel like that's why the songs, I try to make them interesting because I pull from so many spots, and I'm not just going like, hey, what did Rancid do on Let's Go? Like, that was awesome. Let me copy that, which it is awesome. But Rancid was pulling from like 50 million places, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what made them good.
You're tripping me out right now because if you'd have told me an hour ago that I'd be talking about Lane Meyer and Material Girl in the same conversation, I'd be like, what alternate universe am I in? This is great. I'll tell you, I love how the melody changes on verse 2. You go up to a higher register and it's more intense delivery wise here.
Yeah.
A lot of times bands are afraid to do that. It's like the first verse or second verse has to sound like the first verse, and it doesn't sound like you were afraid here. And did Brendan push you, or is that kind of where you wanted to go?
No, that's where I naturally do. Brendan actually was trying to make me split the difference. Like he was like, you got to make it sound a little bit like the first verse. He's like, you can't just abandon it, you know? And he said you can, but he's like, if you're going for, like, if you want to be on the radio, you got to kind of follow some of the rules sometimes, not all the time.
Okay, which brings you to my next point. Was there talk about bringing that lyric back? I can't move on and I can't stay the same, and all my friends say, because here it's, I used to hear when she would sleep in my arms, but better sense says. Was that always that lyric there?
Yeah, because I would have been like, beat it, Brandon. Like I don't like, that's like too far for me. Like I go like, if I feel something, like I'm always like more. Like if I get excited about it and it won't be a good idea, like commercially, I will always go with my excitement. Like, so I've probably ruined opportunities.
Yeah, you know, I'll be the first one to admit there's times that I've been wrong with my songs. I'll look back and say that should have been this and that, but you know, my gut is usually right, and you have to go with how you feel, and you have to stick to your convictions sometimes.
Yeah.
Chorus 2 is the same lyrically as chorus 1. Last lyric, lay at her feet, the melody goes up there with intensity.
Yeah.
It really lifts there before the guitar solo.
Yeah, that is like, so from that line to the end of the song, the vocal delivery, I really wanted, I was such a big fan of The Who and Pearl Jam, like live. And both of those singers, like Roger Daltrey and Eddie Vedder, they didn't do it all the time, but they always had a righteous scream, like a real, like, it was like James Brown, but like way cooler, like just like, rah, like, and I didn't know if I could do that. but I was like, I got to try this. And this is my chance. And so on the rest of the song, I was like, I'm going to try and burn it like on a few of these vocals. And like, it turned out cool. And I thought it came out good. So I just let it go. And these are some of those, you're hearing me experiment from here to the end.
Well, out of all the guys, and I love a lot of the bands, not talking smack on any of them, but the bands that were doing the kind of gruff, screamy thing that you do, your delivery to me was always leaps and bounds above. And it was just, you could enunciate and you could hear what you were singing, but it was still gruff and it still sounded tough.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot to Brendan's credit, is he would always tell me, like, he'd be like, listen, man, I'm not trying to tell you like how to sing, but you got to enunciate. He's like, you can't, because when I talk, especially, I would just be like mumbling. And he's like, dude, I can't tell what you're saying. And I got the lyrics in front of me. You can't do that. He's like, you got it. He goes, the words are good. I want to hear the words. You got to enunciate. And so he taught me that on this record.
And he's right. I think it's so important. And I think with this track especially, it really, really is apparent. The guitar solo is 22 seconds long. It starts at 2 minutes. It goes to 2:22. The chord progression changes for the solo. And tambourine comes in here really loud. Panned off to off to the left speaker. And I'm like, okay, it's time to get on the dance floor now. It's, the tambo is in.
Even realize there's a tambourine in there. That's awesome.
Yeah, tabourine's in there, and I'm wondering what pedal is on the solo. Is that like a big muff electro harmonics? That's what it sounds like almost.
It would have been with Alex, man. He was like a scientist. So that was probably I remember him taking out a wah-wah pedal and then putting it. He like took out the guts and put it into a pedal and like had like the frequency, and so you'd set it so it'd be like weird. And then like, dude, it was probably like a univibe, like, but an old, like a legit one, like a Jimi Hendrix thing.
It's a great sound, but again, it's the guitar solo. It's not like hitting you between the eyes. It's still kind of subtle.
Yeah.
It's letting the band breathe. And when you got the mixes back from Brennan, was there ever discussion of maybe the solo should be louder? Is that where you guys heard it sit in the mix?
I mean, I don't know if like there was ever too much like mix discussions. Like we were probably like, sounds good.
And sometimes that's a good place to be in. Yeah. I've been there, and I've also been like, I need the guitar and the left speaker turned up a half dB, and you'll start to drive your other bandmates and the mixer nuts. They want to kill you, know?
Right.
And I can get that way, and it's not fun. I don't know if after the guitar solo, if you would call this, I think you referred to it as the bridge earlier. It's 3 bars of just that arpeggiated guitar from the intro come in. And so I guess we'll call it a very short bridge. On the 4th bar, the vocals come in. And when this thing first starts, that last note of the guitar solo is ringing out over that arpeggio. It's a cool little flavor there.
Yeah.
And you get in the lyric again, and all my friends say, before chorus 3 hits.
Yeah.
And all my friends say.
Chorus 3 comes on, and just the intensity of this chorus vocally, it's ramped up. Same lyrics, back half again, the harmonies are there, it's killer.
And all my friends say, turn the record over. I'll see you on the flip side. There you go. Turn the key and engine over. Let her go. Let somebody else say you're not me.
And then we go into an outro, and the lyric on the outro is, where you used to be, where you used to be, where you used to be here with me. What are you saying there to wrap up the song?
Well, I think that's that's when the focus shifts from the listener and the self to the person that the song's about. And because I guess the last line, "Let somebody else lay at her feet," is also the first line of that end part, because it's "Let somebody else lay at her feet where you used to be, here with me." And like, you're just shifting the focus to just be like sort of this I don't know, like the taillights farewell, kind of like end of the movie thing. And that's yet another example of shifting, perspective and focus and narrative they're all pliable in my mind. Like whoever's speaking in a song could shift from line to line. I feel no need to follow the rules of language in song.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be first person or third person. It could shift and go all over. I like that.
Totally. Yeah. It's just fair game for me. Like I think the point is paramount.
Here at the outro is a great new guitar lick that's panned right that comes in. First time you hear it.
Yeah.
On the second line, "Where you used to be," it sounds like B3 organ pads come in here.
That's Brendan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's totally awesome.
It's so cool because it just gives you just some extra heaviness right at the tail end of this song. That's just, I don't know if it's so much needed, but it just feels so good.
He's master of that. Right? Like he just knows when the thing is like he just knows where the things need to come in. And he played organ for Bob Dylan, and he's like just that guy. He's like a musical genius when it comes to like arrangement.
It's a total chills moment when the B3 came in there. I was like, this is just, it can't get much better.
Yeah.
At the end of the song here, 4 bars, it ends on what I call the unresolved C minor, the chord, which is the starting chord of the chorus. However, it feels like a suspense chord here because the outro is rooted in E flat.
Yeah, we did that on purpose though, to make people like, we thought about it. We were like, ending on the 1 chord should be the real deal, especially for a song that's like a single. But we were like, again, that's the us in it. It's like that. Nah, like let's do the C minor just because we're not like, we're not like the bands who are like so art rock that they feel like they're nasty and noisy to almost appear smarter than their audience. Like I hate that.
Yeah,
I can't get down with it at all.
Yeah,
but like just the little subtleties that sort of make it uncomfortable, because I don't know, like it was a really poppy song, and like I feel like ending it like that sort of says there's not more of this coming next. And the next song was like Handwritten on the record, which is it's a dark song.
And we waited for sirens that never come, and we only ride by the moon. Every word handwritten, and to ease the loss of youth, and how many years I missed you. Pages plead forgiveness, every word handwritten.
I don't know, the mood of that record is like a little dark.
Yeah, I love that it ends on the C minor, but the riff at the end of the outro starts in E flat, and it's just cool. It ends on the like you said on the 1, but it doesn't feel like it.
Right,
it's great. So, listen, man, this was a lot of fun to go through. But before we go, what would you like to leave the listeners with? What's going on with you solo? What's going on with Gaslight? If there is anything going on, what's happening?
Well, I mean, nothing much is happening right now. I'm trying to wait to get on this like a never-ending cancellation tour. But I guess I have like some dates. Like
I'm on the same one. We're on the same tour. Cool.
It's awesome. It's just like, no, it's horrible, but it is what it is. I think it'll pass. I think it will get back to like, especially summertime. I think it'd be cool with people outside. I don't have like, my year is sort of like being born as it is right now. Like, so I'm like finding out what's going on next, and there's not much really going on to speak of. Gaslight was quiet. Like it's been quiet for a while, but like, again, like I couldn't tell anybody that, like some people are like, oh, you guys broke up. We didn't break up. We just like didn't have any good ideas. So we were like, I don't know, when we have a good idea, we'll come back. So like, who knows? Total respect with what you just said, though. I always like bands. We're broke up. It's like, well, you're a great band. You're probably not going to ever really break up, are you? That's the thing. Is like we never wanted, because we did like a couple shows in 2018, and we didn't want to be like we're broken up. Oh wait, just kidding. Like, so we just said like, yo, we don't have any good ideas right now. Like if we have good ones, we'll come back. I don't know. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
So it's not like, it's not as dire as people want to make it. Like magazines, like former like members of.
Yeah, they hate each other.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, listen, man. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
There's lots more Chris DeMakes A Podcast after a few words from our sponsors.
I don't think it overstates things to say that the Beatles were the greatest gift to entertainment and culture of our time, a secular religion, if you will, with their universal appeal and demonstrable impact on people's lives. I'm Robert Rodriguez, host of Something About the Beatles. With every episode, I speak with historians, musicians, artists, and Beatle witnesses, all in the service of fresh insights into the most joyous cultural entity the world has ever known. I hope you'll join me and listen to Something About the Beatles, now on Evergreen and wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, this is Dewey Halpus, host of Peer Pleasure on the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Join me each week as I explore another long-form conversation with one of your favorite musicians, actors, comedians, or creatives. From Chino Moreno of the Deftones, John Gorley of Portugal the Man, to Fat Mike from NoFX and Ian Mackay from Fugazi and Minor Threat, we go all over the map. From Fall Out Boy to Slayer, Peer Pleasure has it all. Check us out now on Sound Talent Media.
The Helping Friendly Podcast explores the music and fan experience of Phish through interviews and deep dives on shows and tours. For more than 10 years, we've created insightful and fun discussions about our favorite band, and with the help of our guests and thematic series, we're still discovering new angles of appreciation for Phish. And when the band is on tour, we provide a review of every show the following day. As one of our listeners said, any Phish fans that enjoy meandering conversations and incredible insight on new and old Phish shows, this is for you. Highly recommend. It's not just about the band and the shows, it's about the journey getting there. Throughout 2024, we're going to be running down the top 25 Phish tours of all time, and that'll be interspersed with show reviews and regular episodes. Join us and check out the Helping Friendly Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everyone, it's Chris Pandolfi inviting you to check out the new season of my podcast, Inside the Musician's Brain, with new episodes airing now.
Hearing it in that room, these guys playing this thing and trying to figure out how to play this song was mind-blowing. It's so inspiring to know there's so much more to it than you ever thought. And it just opened another door.
But when people find faith because they need to, in terms of just filling a void to feel better without actually being better, that's when it becomes a crutch, much like, drugs and alcohol do.
Man, I don't have all the time in the world here. If I want to be a professional bluegrass musician, I felt like I had to take a very strategic approach, just trying to get rid of the barriers and figure out what those barriers were.
The feelings still come and I have to reckon with that, but I think I have better ways of moving forward and not being stuck, which I think was the killer for me.
Catch all that and so much more on the new season of Inside the Musician's Brain.
Every listener to Too Much Effing Perspective knows that my co-host Alan Keller is a music nerd, and right up there in his pantheon with the Beatles and Elvis Costello is The Clash. So Alan, it's one thing for you to be a nerd, but how did you rope in a cool guy, 311's Nick Hexum, into a full-on Clash geek fest on our show?
Well, first of all, Alex, it was your idea.
Oh, right.
Second, Nick actually jammed with The Clash's Joe Strummer in a supergroup that included Flea and Tom Morello.
Okay, well, there is that.
And finally, one member of The Clash cited This Is Spinal Tap, the reason our show even exists, as his favorite movie.
Which one?
Hey, if you want to find out, you got to listen to Too Much Effing Perspective. That's Too Much EFFING Perspective. The only podcast you crank up to 11.
Hey, this is Steve Choi, host of the Musicians Guild podcast, part of the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Within the four walls of the Musicians Guild, we'll be discussing the habits, idiosyncrasies, experiences, and general psychology of my friends and peers, all involved with music in various capacities. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Chris DeMakes A Podcast, all you have to do is email your song via MP3 only and bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Keep Flying, a 5-piece ska punk band from Long Island, New York, featuring Harry Menzel on vocals and guitar, Chuck Bernard on bass and vocals, Peter Vriones on drums, John Ryan on the sax, and Ricky Coates on trombone. Here's a snippet of their song, Fire Sale.
There's no aftershock, cause it feels like a constant earthquake. Make it stop, cause I just need to stand up straight. I cannot live with my whole world crumbling around me. Just let me get my wits about me.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
Well, not to sound like a broken record, no pun intended when it comes to this song, but I think that may have been one of my favorite episodes. He was awesome. What a great conversation.
Yeah, and it's so crazy. At the top, I had said, can't believe we've never met. I don't recall Less Than Jake being on many festivals with Gaslight, and man, he was so fun to talk to. What a great guy.
Yeah, that was great. He's been asked for a lot by people in our Facebook group and people that reach out to us about who they want to see as guests. He's been asked for a whole lot, and I can see why after that episode. I mean, I've always known that they were a really great band, but yeah, on top of that, a great podcast guest.
Yeah, he was killing me. I mean, he brings up Skid Row, which, of course, I know the weird oddity that they had a singer named Matt Fallon before Sebastian Bach, before they ever got signed. Nobody knows that. He knew that, being from Jersey, which I thought was funny. He talked about Lane Meyer, a relatively unknown punk band that I ended up hanging out with a guy in Florida that was in that band. Less Than Jake played with them. And then out of nowhere, he starts talking about how he's currently obsessing about a song that's going on 40 years old, Material Girl. Like, what? That's crazy.
Hey, I think the thing about Gaslight Anthem, and you got into this a little bit, the word that I would use to describe their music would be earnest. And no, I'm not talking about Ernest Goes to Camp or Ernest Scared Stupid, which would be funny if I was referring to that Ernest. Like, it reminds me, Vern, of Gaslight Anthem. That's not what I mean.
I'm pretty sure nobody thought that, Chris.
They weren't thinking about Ernest Scared Stupid when they listen to Gaslight Anthem. No, it's that they have believable, relatable lyrics. And I don't know if I've ever heard it talked about as well as Brian just talked about why it is that New Jersey bands always seem to fit in that mold. That was a pretty cool explanation, that they're in this place that's surrounded by all these, big cities, places where there are lots of people, and it kind of feels like they're the working class version of those places or something. Or how did he put it? I don't know exactly how he put it, but it was cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much how he put it. You're eclipsed and overshadowed by definitely New York City. I mean, right. You talk about having a huge shadow cast over you. That Philadelphia is close by. He mentioned DC. That was an explanation that I have never heard before. I thought that was really, really interesting.
Something else he said that I thought was really cool, and I've talked about this before with my friends, is that he was talking about how, I think this was in reference to you saying, like, your album went to number 3 on the Billboard charts the week it came out. And he's basically laughing about it. Like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, he thinks it's just as crazy as anyone. But the fact that when I was growing up and I was a teenager, I thought it would be the most amazing thing in the world to be the biggest punk band. And I even wrote down his exact quote. He said, if we could be the biggest punk band, that'd be sick. But then I don't know when it was. I mean, granted, there was Green Day and The Offspring and stuff when I was a teenager. But for the most part, most of the bands that I listened to, if they were big, maybe they sold 80,000, 100,000 albums, which is still a big number, don't get me wrong, but that was what big was. Then all of a sudden, by the mid-2000s, being a big band meant you were selling millions of albums. I had friends' bands who were selling millions of albums, and it's just weird how that happened. When he said that, I'm like, yeah, I get what you're talking about, man. It's crazy that he probably never imagined, like, they'd be on number 3 on the Billboard charts, you know?
Yeah, and I was careful with my language with him. I didn't want it to like they're an overnight sensation, but in the grand scheme of things, it happened pretty quick for these guys. I mean, they were formed in 2006, and by 2008, the 59 sound was out, and they were just rising quick. And, you know, by the time they got signed to Mercury in 2012 and Handwritten was released, it was like all the stars were lined up for these guys. It was the perfect storm.
Yeah, that's a pretty quick trajectory and, you know, hiatus. You know, that their period, like, that's probably around like the Beatles. You know, the Beatles was like, what, 8 years or 9 years that they were together and all this stuff happened. It seems like a lot of stuff happened for Gaslight Anthem in that time. And, you know, no offense to Gaslight Anthem, I'm not really comparing them to the Beatles, but you know what I'm saying is like they happened fast. And everything that happened. Yeah.
Something else I thought was really humbling and awesome. He said, he's like, you know, people like to make a big deal out of, oh, they broke up. He's like, we never broke up. We just, you know, when we have ideas again, maybe we'll play. And I thought that was refreshing. A lot, you know, bands love to capitalize on that reunion tour and all that. And I've always hate those quick cash grabs. I feel that the ones that pay the price are the fans, both emotionally because they love your band and they miss you, and then they pay out of pocket when you come back for these reunion tours. It's ridiculous. You know, he said, no, we're not broke up. We're just not doing nothing right now. I thought that was really honest and sincere.
Dude, what was cool about it is that he said, we just don't have any ideas right now, because they could easily forced ideas and maybe the songwriting would have suffered. So what that tells me is when Gaslight Anthem finally does make a new album, it's going to be really good because there's going to be a reason for it. It's going to be because the ideas are there, the songs are there. I think that's the refreshing part of it, is that they weren't trying to force out average, mediocre music. If they didn't have the songs, they were like, we don't have them right now. And yeah, when they do, I'm sure they're going to be great. And I thought it was cool too, Chris. We've talked about this on past episodes, but in reference to Brendan O'Brien, when it comes to songwriting, he had referenced that it has to have a purpose or it's out of here. As far as like, there's no meandering parts in the songs. It's like everything that's there is there for a reason. And I think that's an awesome way to approach writing a song.
Yeah, I love that.
And enunciation. He stressed enunciation. And I think maybe that's something that gets lost sometimes. I mean, especially in punk rock music. Think about some of the voices and some of the deliveries of people in punk rock. But it is important. You and I might not think about this as much, Chris, because we might tend to err on the side of melody or whatever. But people like to know what the lyrics are. They want to know what's being said.
Yeah, I mean, I love the forefathers of this scene. You know, the Leatherface and Refused and some of those bands. But man, you know, they're not enunciating like Brian is. And I haven't said to him, I think he's one of the best at it. I think he's gruff and emotional, and he can scream, but you're still able to understand what he's saying. And he credited a lot of that to Brendan O'Brien, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Chris, can I enunciate something real quick?
Please.
Will everybody out there please go leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you got a chance? If you got
what
the
a
chance.
segue! What a segue!
Yeah, you know, go leave us a rating. You know, we have a Facebook group. It's a nice place to talk with people about music. We have fun in there. I don't know if you're on Facebook. If you're not, then I don't know what to tell you. Also, we have a supporting cast program. If you like this podcast and you want to support this podcast for a few bucks a month, you get a whole bunch of bonus episodes and you can have a chance to be a guest on Defeat the Makes. There's other stuff associated, but more than anything, you're helping us keep this podcast going, and that's awesome. That's just some of the things I wanted to enunciate there, Chris. I hope I spoke clearly while I was speaking there.
You did a fantastic job, Chris, and I'll enunciate a few things here as well. Please join our Facebook group. Chris DeMakes A Podcast has a Facebook group. It's a lot of fun. We'd love to see you there. Give me a follow on Instagram as well. I'm at Less Than Chris D. And if you'd like a custom song for you, that special someone, a jingle for your business or podcast, hit me up, chrisdemakes@gmail.com. I'd love to write one for you. Special thanks to this week's guest, Brian Fallon, for being with us, and we'll see you next week.
Hello, Tom May here, host of Future Friday. I've spent the last 15 years on the road with my band, The Menzingers, where I've met all kinds of wild and fascinating people. So I started a podcast. On Future Friday, I talk to fellow musicians about the moments that made them, their passions outside of music, and the curiosities that tie us all together. I've also talked to the likes of UFO researchers, magicians, soldiers, and documentary filmmakers, and I'm constantly searching for folks that can shape and change our view of the world. You can check out Future Friday wherever you like.
What's up, everybody? I am Finn McKenty, host of the Punk Rock NBA podcast, part of the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. My podcast is all about doing what you love for a living, and every week I sit down and talk to people who have done exactly that. For example, musicians like Tommy from Between the Buried and Me, Matt from Periphery, Lil Lotus and Shinigami, among many others, photographers, artists, designers, YouTubers like Glenn Fricker and Sarah Dici, and I unpack exactly how they got to where they are today with the goal of helping you do the same. So if that sounds cool, you can listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com, and I'll see you there.